Welcome everybody to the Secure the Sauce Scavenger Hunt. We will be getting started momentarily, and thank you so much for joining us today. In case you're wondering, we will absolutely be recording this webcast, and you will get a copy of the recorded webcast immediately following this session today. Again, we're very excited you've joined us today, and we've got a full house of people attending, so we're just going to give it a few more minutes before we get started for today. Also, at any point in time, if you have questions for the presenter today, please post those in the chat or question area. We will be aggregating all questions and answering those at the end of the webcast today. Again, we want to hear from you. We know that everybody is super excited for the upcoming October Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we want to make sure we get any questions you have answered during today's session. Again, in case you're just joining, a couple of items. We will be recording this webcast, and you will receive an email copy with the recorded webcast. And at any time, if you have a question, please send them over to us, and we will be answering questions at the end of this session today. Again, we're so excited for you to join us today. We have an amazing speaker here, and I'm very excited to introduce her in a few moments. Again, we're just going to give it a couple more minutes, so just stay tuned before we kick off the webcast today. Again, thanks for joining. Also, for those of you that are joining us remotely, a couple little tips and tricks, because we will be showing some videos today. We found that sometimes disconnecting from your VPN or turning off some other items on your devices may help in case you run into any issues viewing the presentation again today. Might be a non-issue, but again, just a couple technical housekeeping items. We just want to make sure we maximize your viewing experience on today's session. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be getting started momentarily. If you're just joining the webcast today, we will be kicking off very shortly. Again, thanks for joining us. We've got a ton of attendees on this call, so we're just giving it a few more minutes so we can maximize everybody's time. In case you missed a couple of the updates, we will be recording this webcast and sending you a copy of the recording immediately following this webcast session, and that will come direct to you from SSA Events into your email that you provided when you registered. Again, we're so excited to have you join us today. And at any point in time that you want to submit a question, please send that to us throughout the webcast. We'll be collecting all of those questions and be answering them at the end of the webinar session today. Again, thank you so much for joining. We are so excited to get started here, and we've got a great presenter lined up for the webcast today. All right, well, we're going to get started. I am honored to have Neaka Balloge on the call today. As you can probably tell if you had an opportunity to read her bio, she is a woman of many certifications. She also is part of several advisory boards with GIAC at SANS and also SANS Security Awareness. She is a PM expert. She has been working with us here at SANS for some content creation, and she is the mastermind behind the Secure the Sauce Scavenger Hunt and really is going to walk you through some great ideas and recommendations for success as you get started and plan for October. If you've never met Neaka before, she is the Program Manager of Information Security and Awareness and Training at Cvent, and she is also a content developer for us at SANS, specifically on the Scavenger Hunt. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Neaka Balloge as the mastermind to kick off our Secure the Sauce Scavenger Hunt webinar. Over to you, Neaka.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. It's very exciting to be introduced as a mastermind. So very much like that. And thank you for that intro. It is so great to see such a strong turnout today and such great interest in this topic from our community. So thank you so much to everyone that's taken time to join us today. And I'm just very excited and also just very honored to have been asked to work with SANS on expanding a scavenger hunt activity that we had actually done for the 2020 Virtual Awareness Summit last August into an actual SANS product. And we're sharing all of this with you today, this product that we have now named the Secure the Sauce Scavenger Hunt. So just a quick reminder before we jump into our slides, if you do have any questions at any point, please put those into the chat box and then we will go through those at the end. So let's jump right into it. So I'd like to start really with the problem or the gap that this scavenger hunt was created to attempt to fulfill. So I'm going to ask you all just to picture yourself in this scenario. And I'm imagining this is not going to take much imagination for most of you. So you have Cybersecurity Awareness Month rapidly approaching. You need a creative way to engage your employees while highlighting information on a variety of key awareness topics. But your bandwidth is limited. So does this sound familiar? So I am sure for many of you that are joining on this call today, who are either a team of one or who may be responsible for security awareness in addition to some other functions within your company, that undoubtedly you would say yes. So again, if this problem is something that resonates with you and you just don't seem to have the hours in the day to be able to do all of the things that you need to within this demanding role, perhaps our Secure the Sauce scavenger hunt may be just the special sauce, pun intended, that you have been seeking. So let's just step back for a second and quickly summarize what all we are going to cover today in this presentation. So we're going to review, of course, why you should use a scavenger hunt as an educational activity. We're going to offer some tips on how to actually roll this out within your organization. We'll have a brief video interlude where we will share our trailer and premiere that for the audience and offer that as a resource for something you can use in your communication strategies. And then we're really going to start taking it to the next level. And we're going to talk about how you can use data that you gather through gameplay to identify and start to mitigate human risks within your organization. We're going to offer some additional tips for success. And then we're going to, of course, have our much anticipated live game demo. And then we'll wrap it up with some product details and some Q&A. So why use a scavenger hunt in the first place? Why is this a good option as far as a method of education for your end users? Well, first and foremost, it's fun. It's a fun and engaging way to get people involved in security awareness best practices. And one of our learnings from when we did this initial activity back at the summit in August 2020 was that a big area we could improve would be weaving the gameplay itself around some type of engaging narrative. So that's exactly what we did for this scavenger hunt. We made sure that we created a full story behind the game that you're playing, and we created characters that should be relatable to anyone based upon, regardless of their industry, so really start to look like your security teams and some individuals that you may actually interact with in real life. We also thought it was very timely because as you'll see here in our trailer video, one of the big events that occurs in this game is a ransomware attack. And we can certainly say this is a very timely topic because I'm sure most of you have seen, whether on the news, whether in print media, lots of coverage recently of tons of ransomware attacks that are happening in the real world. So this certainly connects to things that we are seeing in a modern, relatable universe. We also want to highlight that it can be used globally. So we do have this available in a total of 13 different languages, which is very exciting. And we'll talk a little bit more about the rollout coming up, but we do have the ability for you to either roll out your individual challenges weekly or all at once, and they are short, concise learning opportunities. And then also continuing with the theme of engagement, this really allows you to be able to share information on a wide variety of key awareness topics in a short period of time. So certainly offering a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to covering lots of topics in a short little interaction with your end users. So speaking of those topics, here is an actual list of the key topics that are featured in the game. And we actually worked with some thought leaders in the industry, and we worked together to identify this list of topics and really reach consensus that this was the most important topics that we focus on, and that we ensure that we have some type of questions covering all of these topics. And we did actually map every topic here to a clue that you will see in the game. So I'll just read through these real quick. So the topics that we came to our determination to included ransomware, malware, You Are the Shield, social engineering, phishing, smishing, vishing, passwords, multi-factor authentication, MFA, CEO fraud, data protection and loss, social networks, mobile devices, and remote work. So you will see that there are 14 topics listed here. We have 14 clues in our game. So again, we made sure that we cover all of these topics in one actual game. So next reason why you should consider using a scavenger hunt as part of your educational program. Well, it offers a gamified approach to the distribution and consumption of all of this wonderful awareness related information. So that's really ties back to the abundance of topics that you can cover within one game. And being able to actually make distributing and consuming and engaging that material interesting and fun for the end user is a huge win. So just kind of breaking that down a little bit more, when you think about the presentation of some of these pieces of information on their own, such as a newsletter or an infographic or something like that, when you have end users that have a very, very busy inbox, they may already be looking at lots of different blogs, they may have wiki pages, they may be looking at Yammer, Slack, all of these different channels, we create a whole lot of noise. And if your communication is not really something that's going to stand out and grab their attention, it very, very well could be overlooked if it's just put out there as yet another email, yet another newsletter that they may receive. But when you actually integrate that into a game, you almost force your players to have to interact with that content in order to be able to proceed and play the game. So we're here weaving in the consumption of this information into a gamified educational experience. And then when you tie that into points and tie this into things like a leaderboard and an actual competition between individuals, in our game, players do lose points for wrong answers and for using hints. So that additionally forces your players to make sure that they're engaging with this material and that they are thoughtfully and consciously reading through the content because they want to be able to answer that question right on the first try. So here we are really, really gamifying concentrated absorption of this material that often wouldn't occur had this just been put in a blurb in a weekly newsletter or something to that extent. And then last but not least, This is a very simple activity for you to be able to deploy and manage within your organization. At SANS, we've made this very easy for you to use as a plug-and-play solution with any existing LMS that you have within your enterprise. So again, this is fantastic for those of us with limited time, limited bandwidth, and who really need to be able to plug and play some of these solutions. So again, this is going to be the activity itself will be delivered in a series of SCORM files. We have one SCORM file per challenge, and there's a total of 4 challenges in the game. We'll touch on that a little bit next when we talk about deployment methodologies. But essentially, you can import those files into your LMS that all of your employees are already familiar with using. There's also going to be the ability to leverage the SANS reporting portal for reporting capabilities. And then lastly, all of the instructions for gameplay, as well as the scoring that occurs, all of that we've already thought through and we've baked that into the product. So what's fantastic about that is while we've handled that logic, you as an awareness officer can focus on promoting participation in the activity and not be bogged down with those other details. So as I alluded to a moment ago, we're next going to talk a little bit about deployment and switch gears here. So we want to also highlight some ways and which options you have to roll this out within your organization if you choose to introduce this as part of your 2021 Cybersecurity Awareness Month activities in October. So there's 2 deployment options that you can select from based upon what else you have going on within your program and your organization during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we'll cover both of those. So the options you have are you can do a weekly deployment, or alternatively, you can deploy all of the levels all at once. So we'll first just briefly speak to the weekly option. So essentially, this would be our recommended choice of action. This does allow for a full month of engagement around this game. So we have 4 full weeks in the month of October this year. We have 4 levels or challenges within the game. So you can roll one of those out each week to keep people engaged throughout that full month and to make sure that your Awareness Month calendar stays full and robust throughout that whole 4-week period. Another pro about this approach is that you can have players still catch up in the game even if they miss a week of gameplay. So let's say someone is out of the office the 2nd week of October. When they come back the 3rd week of October, they can still complete that week that was assigned when they were missing, and they can then also complete that week 3 assignment. So you ensure that people can still play and that they can still be a part of this game, even if they have some time out of the office or dealing with other responsibilities during the month of October. And second advantage to this approach is that encouraging participation in these short weekly activities, which we estimate about 10 to 15 minutes for a typical end user to get through, we think that this would often come across as a smaller ask or a smaller request from the information security awareness team, rather than asking someone to sit down and do the whole course in itself, which may take them an hour to proceed through all 4 of the levels. So I'm sure many of you can relate to some of the pains of trying to get individuals to complete things like annual training requirements that may also be just an hour, and sometimes an hour seems a lot to folks. But again, if you do this broken down on a weekly basis, 10 to 15 minutes doesn't sound like that huge of a commitment to individuals, and again, from a psychological perspective, may encourage them to participate on that weekly basis. But we do want to mention that the other approach, doing this all at once rollout, is also appropriate for some organizations. So you should consider this option if you already have a busy calendar of events, if you already have a lot of things going on and you want this to just be a single activity and not have it extend through the full month, this could be a great option for you. Another reason why you may choose all at once is if you would want to actually turn this into a live game event. So we do not know how the world is going to look by the month of October, but if you're optimistic, it's possible that perhaps we will have people back in offices and perhaps would be able to do small in-person activities, or we could do something like this live over a virtual environment, like a Zoom call. But if you would want to do the game all at once, then that's another option for when you would want to use that. And then lastly, if you want to offer individuals just a full self-paced option where you would give them the full month to complete, in that case, you could assign them all of the modules at once, and then people can progress through that at their own pace, as long as you determine a date by which they must have the entire game completed by. So with that, we are going to take a quick pause in the slides, and we are going to share with you our teaser trailer. So again, this is a resource that you will have access to with the game files to be able to aid in promoting this activity and generating some additional interest across the organization. So I believe Danielle had mentioned this when we were all logging in, but I did want to remind everyone there has been some audio lag issues with GoToMeeting. So I am going to jump over to our video. I am going to pause for about 10 or 15 seconds to make sure everyone's caught up there. Then I will hit play. The video is about 30 seconds long, and then I'll bring us back to this slide deck, and I'll wait another 10 or 15 seconds just to make sure from an audio perspective that we're all back on the same page. All right, so thanks for your patience. And here we go to the trailer.
The Secret Sauce Corporation has been hit by a ransomware attack. The only copy of their famous secret sauce recipe has been stolen. Your mission is to answer clues about security awareness, to investigate, detect, and save the sauce. Time is of the essence, and you will need to complete each of the 4 cyber challenges before the clock runs out and the missing recipe is lost forever. Become a cyber hero and help secure the secret sauce.
All right, so we should be all back. So I hope that you all enjoyed that trailer. And again, that's a really fun resource that you can use to help generate some excitement around this activity before you roll it out within your own organization. So moving ahead here, we want to highlight another really great thing about this scavenger hunt. And this is that the fun does not stop for the awareness officer when the game is over. There are opportunities for you as an awareness officer to convert the data that you collect through gameplay to help manage human risk within your companies. So we outlined a few suggested ways that you can leverage the data that is produced through gameplay. So we're going to walk through each of these here. So the most obvious is our first one here. So this is looking at individuals who are either top performers or some of your top participants that can become potential recruits to participate into any existing security ambassador or security champion programs that you may already have within your organization. This could also be a great feeder for a new program if you are not quite there yet. If you're at the phase or the maturity level in your program where you're just starting to think about these types of ambassador programs, this is a great opportunity to get a pool of individuals that you could potentially identify to recruit into those groups. And again, if you already have a program like that that exists, this is another way that you can continually feed individuals or identify individuals from particular target groups or populations that you want to bring into those ambassador programs. And then secondly, you can also drill down into performance on particular clues and the themes that they relate to. So let's take, for example, something like social engineering. So if you look at the data from gameplay around the clues pertaining to social engineering, and if you see that that's an area in which people really struggle, that's one data point for you that you could identify as an area for additional training needs. And you could even look at topics performance and break that down department by department if you really want to get granular to try and identify which specific departments require additional training around which particular areas. So for example, finance and HR, they may have scored differently on different themes, and you may be able to draw some conclusions based upon their performance that perhaps one group requires some training in one area, while another group is doing fine there, but requires training in a different area. And if you want to take this even further, you can start to extrapolate findings from your performance data to begin to identify areas of human risk within your organization. So another example of this, so let's say that you have a question that you're looking at on multi-factor authentication or MFA. Again, let's say that you see that individuals are performing very poor on this question for some reason. So you can ask yourself why. One opportunity may be that they may need additional training, but you may start to also investigate, and you may be able to learn from your colleagues on the security team, perhaps that there's a very low rate of adoption amongst the two-factor app. Maybe just a very low number of individuals even have this app installed. And that could help open your eyes to realize that you have a much larger risk here, and that you have a very large risk of individuals not securing their accounts with two-factor authentication, although the company is offering it. So this is just an example of how you can really take that data that you gather through what your end users think is just a fun educational game, and you can actually use that to help make conclusions around things that you want to offer additional training on, groups that you want to focus that training on, and even some areas of risk that you want to try and mitigate moving forward. And of course, we want to be sure just to share some very general tips for success with you. So one area is certainly around leveraging communications. So make sure that you are getting as much out of all of those communications that you put out preceding Cybersecurity Awareness Month to really build interest around this game and activity. So we already highlighted the trailer video. That is a great place to start. It's already packaged very nicely for you. We have exciting music. We think it's intriguing. So hopefully your end users will find that at least compelling enough to want to sign up to play the game. And of course, with any initiative, make sure that you are taking actions to secure leadership support beforehand. So of course, this includes any of your key program stakeholders, of course, individuals like your CISO, but having their support is fantastic, having their participation even better. So if you can even engage these leaders, get them to commit to playing the game, have their names up on the leaderboards, I think that would be another way to really show that leadership fully supports these types of initiatives as far as building secure cyber behaviors amongst their staff. And of course, gamify this to the max. So take any chance that you have to find opportunities to bring some competition between departments. Do anything to help publicize participation, completion metrics. Try and get people to rely on that innate human competitive spirit to want to then try and beat either the department that they partner with, or maybe a department that someone had transferred from. They want to now beat that department working with their new department. Anything like that to really help encourage people to have friendly competition. Again, all in the spirit of gaining additional education and knowledge. A couple of suggestions that we have here. You can do things like shout outs to your challenge winners, do frequent summaries of overall participation as ways to help encourage others to get on board and start joining and participating. And then, of course, you can utilize any existing communication channels to drive engagement, amp up the competition, post those score updates, and really keep the challenge ongoing and keep that excitement, keep that enthusiasm going throughout the whole month. And last but not least, as far as our final tip, don't forget prizes. Prizes are really important to offer some level of incentive. And of course, we all know things like gift cards, company swag, those things are great, but we really want to make sure that we explicitly call out here that you do not need a prize budget in order to make this successful. So our big line, no prize budget, no problem. We really cannot state enough that the power of positive recognition is tremendous. And never, never, never forget that or underestimate that simply recognizing individuals in a positive way, recognizing them publicly for their achievements, for what they have done, that can certainly mean as much to people as receiving a gift card or something of that nature. One idea around that, again, would be spotlighting winners publicly, but another is also offering these individuals time. So whether that's time to do if we're back in the office, a brown bag lunch or a Zoom lunch session, perhaps with your CISO, perhaps with some members of your IT technical executive team, something where individuals would have a chance to perhaps spend time with individuals and have their perspectives be shared, have their thoughts be heard in a forum where they may not ever have the chance to get to have a conversation with these leaders or these individuals. So again, that's some other options aside from our popular gift cards and little giveaways that you can just through recognition and through awarding people time with others, that you can also encourage participation and get people excited about wanting to perform well in the game itself. So we're going to now move towards our conclusion here, and we're going to have a brief demo of our first challenge activity from the hunt. So we know this is our much anticipated finale here, but I just want to let everyone know that this recording itself has no audio, so no worries if when I hit play you don't hear anything. You shouldn't be hearing anything, but I'm going to just briefly narrate us through the clip. It's just about a minute long. It's really an overview of what you can expect to see, and this is within just the first level, just our first challenge of the 4 total challenges that your end users would experience playing our game. So I'm going to hit play here and I will begin narrating. So this is just the overview of how the course would look here in the SANS portal. Again, there you have that trailer video, and then you would have each of those individual SCORM files as an individual challenge that, again, you can deploy weekly or you can assign all at once. Go through your selection of language using English for our example. Your gameplay screen loads. Hit begin. As we mentioned, we have all of our instructions and all of the rules are involved, already baked into the game, so that's handled for you. We're really introducing the narrative, the setting. Here we introduce some of the key characters so you understand your role in the game. Kick things off with that ransomware note, really to let you know where we're at with the story and what the task is ahead of you. We also have some call outs. We have some did you know pop-ups that offer additional information as your players move through the game. And then we have our actual interface here, where when they are presented with clues, I really like this one. It's really fun. You answer the clues and then you use digits from those clues to populate an IP locator to try and track where the attack has come from. And that's our very quick demo reel. And I am now going to pass it back to Danielle. She's going to help advise on some more product-specific questions, offer some additional resources in that area, and provide you with all of those good details. But thank you all so much for joining today. Thank you for your interest in this wonderful activity, and I'm really excited to have been able to spend some of today sharing it with you.
Outstanding. Thanks, Neaka. So I'm just going to go through a couple items here, and then I promise we will get to questions. Thank you to everybody that's been posting in the chat channel. We are seeing your questions, and we are absolutely going to talk through some of those on the call today. So if you have a moment, I highly recommend you take a quick screenshot of this slide. Again, it will be provided in the recording you will get of this webcast today, but it's super easy if you just take a quick screenshot. And I also pasted this information into the chat channel. But for those of you that have been asking about where can I see the trailer, where can I get more information to really understand this great product that SANS has made available for purchase for October Cybersecurity Awareness Month, please check out our actual webpage that's devoted to this, and you can see that right here under the SANS.org Scavenger Hunt URL. Also, we will be running for anybody that's attending the upcoming Security Awareness Summit in August 5th and 6th. So mark your calendars. Please sign up if you haven't. It is a free summit, but we will be offering for all attendees for themselves to actually go through and take the scavenger hunt at SANS, and we'll actually be doing some gamification and prizes for the Security Awareness Summit. Again, that's only for summit attendees that we'll be running the scavenger hunt to kind of showcase what that looks like, and you can kind of get a hands-on perspective. Again, if you want more information about this specific product, please reach out to us at ssainfo@sans.org, and somebody from our team will be in touch with you as quickly as possible to answer any of your questions about cost, what's included, if you're already an SSA customer, all of those great details, somebody will be able to answer for you. And again, contact us at ssainfo@sans.org. Again, we will be recording this session and providing that to you. But now let's get to some great questions that all of you have been posting in the chat channel. So I actually want to start with a question that somebody posted, which is, can this be deployed at any time during the year, or is it only available for October? Great question. This is something that a lot of people are using for October, but it is not only for October. In fact, we have several people that have purchased this product and are actually going to use it later in the year or even next year as a program refresh, because it conflicts with something else they might be doing for October, or October might actually be when they do some of their other training initiatives. Again, there is nothing in the scavenger hunt that's specifically around October, so this is absolutely a great resource, a great activity you can do that's outside of October Cyber Month. So thank you for submitting that question. Also, another great question came up around how long does this really take somebody to complete? So really on average for most of the challenges, which includes 4, really most people are probably going to complete it within 5 to 8 minutes. If you've got somebody that's super methodical and they're going to kind of go through and take their time and they might be answering and doing some other stuff at the same time, they probably might take up to 10 minutes. But on average, if you space this out, we're really talking about 5 to 8 minutes that it really is going to take a player to go through each of the challenges. So if you think about that and you do 1 challenge a week, or you let people self-pace for the month of October or a different month that you choose to roll it out, it's really 40 minutes or less of people's time. So again, we know that you've got to deconflict with other training initiatives. We also know that time is of the essence. So really, again, this should absolutely take way less than 60 minutes total for people to complete these 4 challenges. And again, people are going to go through it faster than others. All right, another great question we got was, what data is being collected and how do these points and different things work? So great question. So we've actually created several canned reports that you'll get available to you if you buy the Scavenger Hunt, and you're going to get a ton of data to really gamify this. So every single challenge is actually going to be point-based. And as you go through each of the challenges, different challenges are worth more points than others. Again, really fun game element. Challenge 4 is typically harder than challenge 1. You earn more points as you go along. Also, as Neaka talked about, all of those different topics are tied back to learning objectives and specific topics. And some clues are harder than others, and you may earn more points for different clues. And then also, as Neaka mentioned, using hints might decrease your points. And if you use more hints, you lose more points. And then we've also really, again, built in a fail-safe, because we don't want people to take this and really struggle and feel like they can't get any points. So the last hint that we have in every challenge for every clue is actually the answer. And we've done that because, again, we want it to be fun, we want to encourage learning, and we want to encourage the opportunity for people to complete and go through these challenges. Again, you're going to lose points and different things like that, but that's what's going to be provided. So you as a security awareness officer will get to see all the point values for each of the challenges. You're also going to get to see how long it took people to complete. So if you think about some of the great recommendations Neaka gave for, prizes and recognition and different things like tiebreakers, it could be the person who had the most points and who did it the fastest with the highest level of accuracy. So we've tried to think about all those different pieces so you can really get some great data. And as Neaka mentioned, also get insight into different risk areas and different things like that. All right, one of the other questions we've got, and Neaka, I'm going to actually turn this question over to you, but we got a great question about just the level of the topic of CEO fraud and what does it cover in regards to general business email compromise. So I know that's part of one of our clues. So Neaka, I'm going to turn it over to you to answer that question.
Sure. So we really wanted to expand just upon the general topic of phishing and made sure that we cover something that was either centric to CEO fraud or BEC. And so we know that BEC can take the form of multiple different impersonations, but we actually really narrowed down on CEO fraud as the specific illustration of an example of BEC. And essentially how would we say, the age-old example of an individual who is trying to impersonate a correspondence from your boss or your supervisor or someone that's a very high-ranking executive within your organization, which typically then results in individuals either acting before they have time to think about that or just out of blind obedience, following through with whatever request is made, regardless of how absurd it may sound once you actually take a moment and think about it.
Thank you so much, Neaka, for answering that question. We're also getting a lot of people asking about, can this work in a different LMS besides the SANS training platform? And does it work in the SANS training platform? Absolutely. So if you're running a learning management system and you can launch SCORM files, you can launch the Scavenger Hunt. Absolutely, it works in the SANS training platform, and there's different advantages there because in part of our SANS training platform, you can actually build out a really nice learning path that can be self-paced, and there's also different game badge elements that you can include too. Again, this is SCORM content. Every single challenge is its separate course. So if you want flexibility to assign one a week or assign all 4 challenges at the beginning of the month and then tell everybody when you're going to pull the final scores and have an award ceremony at the end of the month and let people self-pace in case people have vacations or they're out, or just flexibility for different time zones as well. All of that is feasible too. So we've really tried to make it be easy to plug and play depending on what's going to work best for you and your learning environment. All right, we had a really nice question about how does this work in a manufacturing environment, one that might not have headsets or speakers? Great question. So absolutely, if they have access to a learning management system, or specifically if they're on our SANS training platform, they can absolutely go through this scavenger hunt. They might not hear all the cool music and sound effects that are going to be part of each of those games, but that will not inhibit them at all from answering the clues, filling in the information, and collecting points. Again, we really wanted to be mindful of different environments, whether people are at an actual site, a manufacturing organization, or if people are still working remote as well. If you are interested in seeing a longer demo, again, we just showed you a very short snippet of what the first challenge looks like. You can absolutely reach out to ssainfo@sans.org and somebody can get you in touch with a full demo and provide you a lot more information, because we have an entire game toolkit that's going to be part of this as well. So you can socially promote it, have different things like completion certificates and virtual backgrounds. And all of us like to plan in advance, so a calendar rollout of when you should do what to really have a successful launch of the scavenger hunt. Again, we really wanted to make sure this was flexible and you have all the assets to really plug and play, because as Neaka mentioned, none of us have a lot of time to kind of reinvent and create stuff from scratch with just all of the different things that we're managing daily. All right, I'm going to take a look here. Neaka, would you mind just going back to the slide around languages? I think there was a great question that we can put up there just around languages. And again, all of those languages are baked into the scavenger hunt, and the user will self-select the language of their preference. And all of that is part of the scavenger hunt. So there's no strange hidden costs that you have to pay through language, and you don't have to figure out people's language preference either. Let the user decide, let them be the driver, and really be in charge of their own destiny as they go through the scavenger hunt challenges. All right, so we'll get that language list up here. And I'm just looking here at a couple more questions in terms of what we're seeing here in the chat channel. So I'm seeing a couple questions around, is there any limit on how many people can play? Really the cost modeling, and again, please reach out to ssainfo@sans.org because they're going to be the experts. But really, you can decide how many people at your organization that you want to play the game, and then purchase the quantity that's going to be best suited for you. But in terms of launching the scavenger hunt, we don't have any limits that say no more than 1,000 people can play at once or anything like that. So really, you've got flexibility to decide what's going to be best for you, and really what the focus is for what you want to accomplish with the scavenger hunt in terms of user engagement. So Neaka, I'm not sure if we're seeing your language slide advance, but we'll get to
So
that here in just a few minutes.
there is not a slide in this deck that details all 13 of these languages. We had the slide that covers the topics that we include, but where there was not a slide actually with that list of 13 languages. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, not a problem. And I'm actually pulling that up right now, and we will get that information over. All right. So the languages that this scavenger hunt will be available in is Chinese Simplified or Mandarin, Dutch, US English, United Kingdom English, French, French Canadian, German, Italian, Japanese, Polish, Portuguese, Brazilian, Spanish, Latin American, and Swedish. Again, if you're interested in getting more information and having the exact list of languages, please check out our webpage, and also SSA info@sans.org will be able to send you that list directly as well. Great question. Thank you so much. And I do apologize, Neaka, for thinking that was in our slide deck here today. And thank you for asking the great question here in the chat channel. All right, we're getting some other questions about prize winners, how to award them. So Neaka, I'm going to turn it back over to you to give some other suggestions outside of what was covered here that you've really seen successful in really motivating and highlighting and recognizing people that not only participate, but score really well in something like a scavenger hunt.
Sure. So I think anything like we mentioned as far as your traditional route of awarding people prizes, I think things like, of course, we can do recognition, like we mentioned before, whether that is in the format of if you do quarterly town halls, putting people's name up on a slide, if you have a Slack global channel that you can blast out an update to the entire company recognizing these individuals. And then lastly, the idea of giving people time. So whether that's time with a specific leader in their business unit, whether that's time with your CISO so that they can bring up any types of questions or just ask general things about cybersecurity to someone who really is an expert within their organization. I think that those are 3 different approaches depending on what your budget allows and depending on what is appropriate within the culture of your company that can help encourage participation and enthusiasm around the game itself.
Thanks so much, Neaka, for answering that. Just another question we had too is, can you talk a little bit, Neaka, about how you kind of got people to participate in the scavenger hunt, especially if people are taking kind of a volunteer, like opt-in approach? What are some of the things you would recommend to the security awareness officers or people that would be launching this to do to kind of get hype people up, pre-communicate, thinking about a movie premiere? Can you just kind of talk about some of those success things that you've seen that really drive people to engage in this activity?
Sure. So I think being very thoughtful and intentional in your communication strategy can help make this quite successful. And we would certainly encourage you to, like we said, use this trailer video, weave this into communications. You can even do things like sneak peek, just kind of dropping and planting the seed that you have something coming up, and then releasing the trailer, and then giving people the opportunity to enroll in participating. So we think really being proactive within your communication strategy and highlighting, of course, that this is a very fun game and that it's interactive and that there are a lot of lessons learned, but ultimately that, whatever opportunity you want to use to incentivize people, again, if you have prizes, if you have opportunities for them to spend time with individuals, anything like that, I think combined with promotional materials, I think can come around and generate quite a bit of interest in the game itself.
Thanks, Neaka. Greatly appreciated. So we're getting some other questions here in the chat channel around, what are some of the other assets that coincide with the release of this scavenger hunt that security awareness officers can leverage? So I just kind of wanted to highlight a couple of those before we move to some other questions. So as part of the scavenger hunt toolkit, when you purchase this, You're going to get a rollout activity calendar. That's going to be recommendations just to exactly what Neaka said, when you might drop some of those teasers. What are some things you can leverage in social channels? Is there different influencers you could use to drive some friendly competition if that's relatable in your organization's culture? Also, as mentioned, all of the game rules are included, including the high level about how points work. So we're trying to cut down on a bunch of questions coming into from users. Of course, we know people don't always read everything, to really kind of keep all of that self-contained so you don't have to be the messenger. Again, we've got the teaser promo video that will be made available to anybody in an MP4 format so that you can use that however you want. I mean, you could even drop it in Slack or Yammer or send it via email to really highlight the scavenger hunt. We're also going to be creating some social teasers. So GIFs are a very powerful way to kind of show short snippets of what these challenges might look like and really drive people with some taglines to really kind of get them hyped up. So that will also be something that we'll be making available. And then for customers that can actually leverage gamified elements in their learning management system, or if you're using our SANS training platform, there's the concept of badges. So we will have badges associated with each of these challenges. So people are going to be earning a piece of the shield to collect the entire shield at the end to become a cyber hero. And each of those can be earned and implemented for each of the challenges. So people are feeling like they're getting something tangible, and maybe they even want to socially share that. You know, 3/4 of the shield has been built, or I just earned my shield. And of course, we want to drive participation recognition. So you'll actually get a participation certificate template that you can brand and customize to really thank people for participating in the scavenger hunt challenges. And then again, I know Neaka outlined some great suggestions for prizes and awards, but we're going to give you a tip sheet too that says, here's what we recommend. Here's some things to think about, because we know every organization is different, and maybe not everybody can send prizes, but maybe they could do some recognition in a newsletter or some sort of team meeting. And then one of the other final pieces that obviously has become very popular in this sort of remote workspace is virtual backgrounds. So we are actually going to create virtual backgrounds that any player can have and say, I'm participating in the scavenger hunt. And then we're going to also have select virtual backgrounds for those that are the highest scorers, a little bit of the elite cred that they can kind of showcase. Again, driving this gamified fun concept to really get people to participate on a social level. So again, really great questions, and we're super excited to kind of package all that together so you don't have to think about that. Seeing a couple different things in regards to questions around, is there going to be a different game next year? Absolutely, we are seeing more and more requests from people in terms of gamified concepts, gamified training, different things that can be used for fun, engaging activities. And that is absolutely something that is at the forefront of what we're thinking about at SANS Security Awareness. So we'd love to hear from you if you've got a great idea. So please send that over to SSA-events. And we'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions. We're doing a lot of great planning for 2022, and Neaka herself is actually on our product advisory board, so we can hear directly from the community, but also from our customers too about what they want. So absolutely, that is something we are looking at and planning for, outside of just the October sort of moment in time that a lot of people plan and do different activities for. All right, just looking at a couple other questions. So cyber heroes, are they the same or different from InfoSec champions? Neaka, do you want to talk about what we're talking about in cyber heroes versus maybe a champions or ambassador program? I'm going to turn that question over to you.
Sure, sure. So when we were talking about cyber heroes, we were talking about arming your end users with the ability to make smart security awareness decisions. This was not necessarily supposed to be limited to just individuals in a champion or an ambassador program. So please do not feel that this limits anyone that could participate in the game. This really is to make anyone within your company empowered with their ability to recognize potential security threats. This is not necessarily just an opportunity for people that are already in a champion's role or anything like that. I hope that clears up the verbiage used.
Awesome. Thanks, Neaka. And I know everybody's time is valuable, so we've got about a minute left. So with that, we're going to close out today's session. Neaka, thank you so much for joining us today and talking to this audience about some really great recommendations for October, or just a program refresh in general with the Secure the Sauce Scavenger Hunt. Again, you should be receiving the recorded session today in your email inbox momentarily. Thank you so much for all the great questions today. And if we didn't get to your question and you want to know more, please check out our website and absolutely email us at ssainfo@sans.org. Thank you so much for attending. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day or evening. And thank you so much for joining us today for this great webcast. Take care, everybody. Thank you again.